Okay, as I said, welcome very much to Rebuilding Futures Round 5, the Disaster Resilient Communities 2025 grant program run by FRRR in partnership with Suncorp. This is supporting remote, rural and regional communities impacted by extreme weather events and disasters from 2019 to 2024. I'd firstly like to acknowledge the country I'm coming to you from today, which is Narooma, on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Yuin Nation. I'd like to express my gratitude for their care and custodianship of the land and sea on which we get to enjoy this beautiful country, and acknowledge them going forward. Round 5 of Disaster Resilient Communities, just a little bit of housekeeping. I'd appreciate if you keep your phones on silent and mute yourself during the presentation. We will be sending a link to the recording of this presentation, and a PDF. The slides will be emailed to attendees within 48 hours. Please put questions and feedback in the chat as we go along. We will check in and I'll definitely make time for questions during this. And we appreciate all your comments to help us help you in this process. As you can see, we've got some contents there. And we're really looking to ensure that you understand the opportunities that are available through this grant program, and also provide you with some grant writing tips and resources to take away from the workshop. If you aren't familiar with FRRR, we are the only national foundation that's specifically focused on ensuring social and economic strength in remote, rural and regional Australias. And we work and align with government, philanthropy and community purposes and investments to achieve that goal. Our partnership with Suncorp commenced in 2021. The Rebuilding Futures Grant program is committed to responding to communities impacted by significant disaster and extreme weather events. We really acknowledge that, the experience of disasters is increasing in frequency and intensity. And Suncorp Group with FRRR are really proud to be presenting this funding opportunity for communities impacted between 2019 and 2024. It has been a very hard 5 years for many communities, and we're really interested to see what stages you're at in regards to your consideration of recovery, prevention and preparedness, and looking to support projects that can strengthen your communities and also reduce the disaster impacts for the future. We are using the Australian Federal Government's Australian Disasters Declaration website to reference disaster events that are eligible for this program. But if your event is not listed on this site, we do encourage you to contact FRRR and we'll discuss your project and the eligibility with you. So the purpose of the grant program, it is really about helping communities to strengthen their resilience. And we know this can happen in a wide range of ways for both the medium and long term. This is about supporting community-led projects for prevention, recovery and preparedness that benefit the wider community. We're looking to see communities that are building back better in how they think, both socially, how they might work in the future, but also in regards to physical infrastructure. Know that the experience of disaster is unique for each community, and that's why this is about community-led projects. There's a real breadth of projects that we'll consider, and broadly the goals and outcomes we're seeking for you to achieve in your communities are that you are more informed, skilled, connected and resourced to respond to future disasters, that you're able to rebuild in an effective, informed and stronger way, and that the overall wellbeing and mental health of communities is increased through the project activity. Just up front, I think it's really important for people to understand who can apply through this grant program. It is only available for not-for-profit organisations with or without deductible gift recipient endorsement. If you don't have DGR status, you do require either an incorporation certificate and or an ABN. So call FRRR to discuss if you don't have one of these and you're unsure. As I mentioned, you must be in a disaster declared LGA, but please talk to us if that's not the case. Projects must be for charitable purposes and offer clear public benefit. You can submit one application per grant round. Projects must benefit communities in remote, rural or regional Australia. As always, we really encourage you to read the guidelines for more details on this eligibility. What cannot be funded? This is for projects that are about recovery. We cannot fund ongoing core organisational operational costs, but we will fund a broad range of costs that are related to the projects, and that may include, project wages, rent on a specific building or equipment that's related to the project. We can't fund projects that are subject to an insurance claim or should be covered by your current insurance policy. Again, feel free to discuss with us this situation if you have a question on that. Prize gifts, trophies or awards are not eligible to be funded under this. If you're doing a community event where you intend to do some awards of some kind, we suggest you look for sponsorship and speak to us about how we might make that event happen with you through funding. The projects must have that broad community benefit, so they can't benefit a private business, a sole trader or private interests. These grants aren't for political lobbying or for evangelical purposes. We can't fund projects solely focused on animal welfare. And the encouragement or advancement of sport, recreation and social activities are not considered charitable activities under Australian law. So if you are a sports organisation, please reach out to us and chat to us to ensure that the project you're considering meets the requirements for broad community benefit. So this grant round has two streams. And a total of 400,000 is available. So Stream 1 grants are up to 20,000 and there's a total funding pool of 250,000. Stream 2 grants are available from 20,000 to 50,000 and a total funding pool of 150,000. The grants opened last Tuesday. Expressions of interest for Stream 2 close at 5 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Standard Time on Tuesday the 25th of February, and all applications must be received by 5 p.m. on Thursday the 3rd of April. Applications must be for projects that can be completed between July 2025 to July 2026. We can't fund retrospective activities, and the grants will be announced in late June 2025. So I just thought I'd go back to when we talk about disaster resilient communities, what we're talking about. As I said, it's really important to us that these communities projects are community-led. We know that activity in your community can generally build resilience through strengthening people's connection and understanding of services that are available, the skills and knowledge that allow them to respond in disaster environments in a safer and more informed way. that can reduce their vulnerability and risk. Resilience isn't, a goal that a community achieves, but it is an aspiration or an ambition or hope to have a stronger community. And we know that might happen in a bumpy, messy way. And so, we're really open to projects that you bring to us that kind of demonstrate that you know your community and you understand what's important to them, what will engage them, and what will make a difference. And it might look bumpy or messy, but we're very open to, supporting you in achieving, your aspirations to be a stronger community. And when we talk about community, it is geographic or cultural, and sometimes interest-based. And that resilience is your ability to withstand a crisis or a shock, to mobilise effectively in response to the crisis, and over time to recover or heal. It also includes paying attention to and connecting and mobilising community strengths and resources so everyone in local communities can contribute to vibrant and healthy community life through times of adversity and uncertainty. So it's not just about being disaster ready, it's an everyday state. So stream 1, as we said, the grants are up to $20,000 and there's $250,000 available, and that's nationally for remote, rural and regional communities. This will support a broad range of projects or initiatives with medium to long-term recovery and resilience building of the local community. What we'd like to see is that the project can achieve at least one of the following: assisting recovery from the impact of disaster, strengthening prevention and preparedness for the future, and or evidencing outcomes of one or more of the 7 critical dimensions for building community resilience, which include inclusion, networks, communication, information, self-organising systems, local decision-making, and or resources. There's a link to a paper that FRRR completed with Sydney University on these dimensions that relates to that illustration. And I think we find that, most projects easily evidence at least one of these dimensions in their work, but it's always great to kind of find out more and reference information in regards to this. As I said, there's a broad range of projects that will be funded, but they must be related to disaster recovery of your community, prevention or preparedness for future disasters. So, as I said, you can be delivering or providing activities or events, purchasing or hiring equipment and materials. There could be small community infrastructure projects, organisational capacity building. And when we talk about that, we mean that you might be training staff who, in an experience of disaster previously, weren't aware of particular ways to help, or setting things up differently so they're better equipped to be able to respond to the need in their community should a disaster impact, or even in the recovery process. Specific sessions and programs that can support community members' mental health and wellbeing, and also community resource development, including volunteer development. So a very wide range of projects are eligible. When you're thinking about this project, what we want to hear about it is we're really interested to understand your community's experience of the disaster. Who is in the community and how they've been impacted. We'd like to understand why the project's been identified as needed. What is the issue, need or opportunity? And also how the project is delivered in a way that broadly benefits the community. And I suppose more specifically what the project is. So an activity, training to build capacity, or, constructing infrastructure that will decrease future impacts. We're also really interested to know what will happen if you do not do this project, because that's a really compelling case. We really strongly encourage you to demonstrate evidence of engagement with other community groups and show us that through letters of support or surveys that indicate people's interest in the project and engagement. We encourage you to contact FRRR to discuss this at any time. A couple of project examples of, Stream 1 type grants in the past. The Hawkesbury City Council received a grant of $14,836 and they developed 3 community hubs. The issue that they raised was that there was limited publicly accessible digital resources for the residents of Hawkesbury. And this really limited them in their recovery, in their ability to access recovery resources and support. And so what the funding provided was equipment and internet access for those community hubs. As a result, the outcome is that those communities have that equipment and access to technology and support of information. It reduces the vulnerability of the people in that community with that access. And there's also been local volunteers and council staff who have supported people in their access and kind of engagement with that equipment. The King Community Group in New South Wales, their issue was that their community building was severely under-resourced when they experienced a disaster to actually support them in the response or relief stage and the recovery stage. They needed essential office equipment and they also needed to kind of tidy up that facility to work better. So as a result, they received some computer equipment and also renovation and some furniture. And, they feel much more comfortable and confident in regards to how they would operate in a disaster, particularly with things like ensuring that there's a community member registry to enable instant communication if anything happens. This is an example of building community resilience where people feel more confident that they can get in touch and be supported if they need to. This Stream 2 is a new stream for this program. It's really specific stream to support local community infrastructure projects that are focused on preparing a facility or community area to manage and mitigate future disaster risks. This could include community halls or meeting places, which we understand play a critical role in the disaster response and recovery process, and more broadly strengthen the community's ability to be resilient. We're really wanting to help small, locally based organisations to upgrade their infrastructure and to better withstand the impacts. What we're really interested in is the concepts that come with that. If you're going to do work on the local hall, what happened last time, what kind of damage or what's been done to replace it or what still needs to be repaired to make you confident that that facility is going to be functional and safe in the future. So as I said, it's a new grant program and the first step in applying is completing an expression of interest. This is a shorter application form and it's really about applicants presenting their concept to us, why, similarly to the last one, why they need this project, how it's been identified. The criteria for the project is that it's going to build back better with local community infrastructure, that it's based on historical and future climate risks. We're looking at clever uses of design that aim to prepare and reduce future impacts. And we want an outline of estimated costs, including material, labour and expertise. The outcomes we're looking for might include, but aren't limited to, increasing the resilience of community meeting places, so ensuring that if there is a disaster, those places can withstand. those impacts and be safe for the community that may be taking shelter there. Similarly, that there's lower running costs, that your premiums may be reduced as a result of it being a safer building, or there's other sustainable ways that you are supporting that building going forward. Lowering disruption. If that building is more resilient to disaster impact, then we would imagine that, if a disaster occurs again, that in the recovery period post-disaster, the costs aren't, you're able to kind of, activate in that space, or in a way without a lot of disruption, or you don't have any replacement costs. We are really interested in this grant opportunity to see how communities are thinking about their preparedness. FRRR speaks with a lot of communities regularly, and we will be offering mentoring support, both on the phone now, but also when the EOIs come through and we start to have a look at what people are doing, to be able to direct them or to be able to encourage them into completing a full application. And additionally, we have been consulting with organisations that have expertise in resilient building expertise, where possible we may be connecting communities if they are needing that kind of support. A couple of examples that are on our website include the Rochester Senior Citizens, their op shop rebuild. As many people will know, several severe flood events have impacted the Rochester community over the last 5 years, and the Resilient Building Council engaged with this organisation to plan and design the op shop rebuild so that the building would be disaster resilient in the future to future floods. The Rathdowney Memorial Grounds Association suffered severe flood damage. This is a really important community space. Obviously, local camp drafts, markets and camping occur there, and so the resurfacing of the grounds and the area where a lot of those activities take place is really, really important. Once again, to ensure ongoing community use, because that's also got to do with the economic viability of that community. Once again, what we want to hear about, we are interested in, your community's experience of the disaster and how you've identified this project as a need. And what will happen if you do not do this project? What are your concerns about not being prepared for future disasters? Just as an overview, where relevant, all projects should demonstrate experience of a disaster impact that informs the project design and delivery. The projects need to suit local community needs, priorities and interests. We'd like to see recognition of First Nations knowledge and strength and cultural practices to foster healing, connection and care for country where relevant. And we also, are interested in the limited ability you may have to attract funds from other donors or government for these kinds of projects. We will obviously support a broad range of projects in streams 1 and 2. It really is about ensuring that, you're preventing and preparing future disasters. So with the use of resilient materials and clever design is highly regarded for Stream 1 projects and required for Stream 2. And with Stream 1, we are interested in, the overall wellbeing and mental health of communities being increased through the project, and also the building of networks or resources that communities can share information, etc. So I'm going to shift off the screen in a minute and come back to see what questions we have in the room in regards to the grant program. but I just thought I'd run through this quickly in case it's on your mind. An organisation can only apply for one grant through this program. If you do apply to Stream 2 and are not invited to a full application, we've designed the timing of this grant program so that you can scale your Stream 2 project to apply for a smaller Stream 1 amount of funding, or you could apply for a different project in Stream 1. The EOI process, we will alert people by March 17th whether you've been successful or not, so that will give you 2 weeks to complete an application for Stream 1. Additionally, if you are invited to complete a full application, we have included a question in that full application that asks how your project could be scaled down to be considered for Stream 1. So you're not cutting yourself out if you decide to be ambitious and come to Stream 2 for a project. There is still an opportunity for, if it's an infrastructure project, for it to be considered in Stream 1 as well with the lower grant amount. Just coming back, just reminding people that Stream 2 EIs are due at 5 p.m. on the 25th of February, and all applications are due at 5 p.m. on 3rd of April 2025. So I'm stopping sharing now and just coming in to have a look at the chat, and also if anyone would like to put their hand up or has any questions at this stage. Okay, that feels pretty good. So the next part of the conversation is generally grant writing tips. So once again, as I go through this, feel free to put questions in the chat in regards to the grant, and we'll come back again at the end. But this is more about, that general skills development of your grant writing capability, and I suppose what we're looking for in answers at a more general level. So I will share my screen again, go back to that. As I said, all these slides will be shared with you. So potentially you may feel that you're, a pretty strong grant writer. So you'll still get these if you don't feel the next section is relevant to you. Just a quick one to FRRR does all the assessment on these, and then we work with an advisory program committee, the Suncorp assessment team, and then the projects go to FRRRR CEO for final approval. All applicants are notified in writing about the outcome of their application, and if you are unsuccessful, we encourage you to get in touch with us to talk about why you weren't successful, and we always happy to support you with constructive feedback to support you in your future grant applications. So, as I said, general tips and tricks for preparing, writing, and planning the delivery and reporting on your grant. This is a nice little kind of graphic that takes you through all the different things you should be thinking about: the what, the why you're doing it, the when will you do it, the where it will happen, who will be involved, how are you going to do it, and how much it will cost. If you answer all those questions, then you're ready to kind of do an application. We always say, are you solving an issue or are you creating an opportunity? And that's also meeting a need. So when we look at these, that really specific on activity, program, training, equipment or purchase, why is it important? And as I said earlier, what will happen if you don't do this project? We really do love evidence, research and statistics, particularly that are relative to your local economic or social impact. if you are putting these documents in as an attachment, reference anything specific in the application, and then that document can act as the evidence that supports anything that you are really addressing through your project that you've noted in your application. When you're answering the what, you know, try and be really specific. So we will run, you know, this number of these types of workshops for XYZ community with this aim. And the funds will be used for venue hire and speakers. So just being really clear to us in regards to what you're doing. Again, and then why. You know, how do you know that this grant is needed? Please don't be vague. We really appreciate that you may have done a consultation, a survey, you may have held a community meeting that's allowed you to know this, or you may just have experience when we're talking about the disaster and its impact. And, you know, you may be speaking to experts in regards to, you know, why this happened and how you might address it in the future. Who will be involved is really important. That includes both the partners and supporters, other community organisations or businesses, volunteers, participants and beneficiaries, particularly if you're working on a project that requires key skills, but also it's understanding who's involved, you know, what kind of representation there might be on the committee to ensure lots of people are involved and engaged in the process, and their ability to connect with, you know, the broader community in regards to that. How, when and where. You know, what are the key project tasks? The resources and responsibility. What are the critical project dates? This is really valuable for us to understand when that project will be delivered. And also the project site is really critical. Key things we need to understand is if you need permits for what you're doing, how you'll be managing things like occupational health and safety. You know, still relevant is a COVID safe plan in place, but I suppose it's more, you know, is there anything else that's going on in the environment where you're particularly being responsive to your community? It could be ensuring, you know, that the place is accessible, you know, even not just for people with a disability, but with people with limited transport options. So this is the kind of thing we're looking at and how I've been talking about it. I do apologise for that. So the how, when and where, we're not sure where the project will happen. We'd really like some certainty. You know, we do get a lot of grant applications in, and that certainty in regards to the project and kind of the plan that's behind it is really important. So we do understand sometimes you mightn't have your quotes, you might be looking at a few different venues, so that's fine. You just tell us, you know, some of the challenges you might have in regards to the planning of your event and finalising some detail, and we're very open to understanding that as long as we understand what's being considered. How much it will cost is always really, really important. There's a template in the FRRR application that allows to put in your expenditure and also your income. We're also, you know, looking at any other support you might have. So your project for Stream 1 may not necessarily just be a $20,000 project. It could be a $100,000 project, and you have other resources, in-kind support that's coming from volunteers or businesses or sponsorship, etc., that's making it happen. It's really important to tell us about those funds because it ensures that we understand that the project is feasible with our contribution. The fact that you have great support from other people does not, you know, is not of detriment to your application at all. Usually it actually demonstrates to us, A, your capability in fundraising, and B, the support you have of the broader community in actually achieving the project. So stage 2, writing your application. We always say read and follow guidelines. So, go back to that essential thing and follow all the application instructions. Give yourself plenty of time. Attach quotes, financials, and letters of support. We are quite conscious that sometimes it can be difficult to get a quote because tradespeople are very busy. And so what we suggest is, if you aren't able to get a quote, is that you estimate to us, what those costs are and what the basis of your cost is. As long as there's a good rationale there, we're very happy to accept that. Do make sure your budget adds up. Otherwise, we're trying to add it up and it can get a little confusing. And just, tell a compelling story about why this is important to your community. We do assess what we have to hand. We don't have time to chase that material that you haven't provided. We do require you to provide financial with this grant application. So please look at the guidelines in regards to that. It may be an annual statement, a balance sheet, depending on the age of your organisation. Once again, FRRR staff are available to support you throughout the process, so don't be concerned about giving us a call and having a chat. Just reinforcing, you must be a not-for-profit, have an AMBN or be incorporated, and offer a clear public benefit. We can't fund these things, so just, look at what you're looking for funding for. I really like this is a really great cheat sheet in regards to writing your application. Just, understanding that you don't have to be really technical. Clear, simple language is the best way. Always kind of assume that the reader doesn't know anything about your organisation, project or community. So spell out any acronyms or any groups that you might be working with in your community. Maybe give a little bit more information on who they are and what they do. Just really supports us in having a clear picture of how things your community. When you think about what success looks like, that's always a great way to go past over your application after it's there and think, have I really, told the story of if we deliver this project, this is how our community will benefit. This is what change will happen. This is how we will be building resilience. We love photos. And we do ask when you submit your application that you provide us with at least one photo that kind of mightn't necessarily be the project, because if you're installing something that's not necessarily as indicative of your community or your organisation and what you do. So, think about the best way you can visually tell the story of your community through the project that you provide, the photo that you provide with your application. You have 12 months from the date that you receive funds to finish the project, and then 2 weeks to provide a final report. If you are running into issues, you just contact us as soon as you understand what those issues are to discuss what an extension might look like or slight changes to your project. We have a report form on our grant application database that you'll be required to fill in, where we ask you to reflect on your activity, tell us what you planned, what actually happened, and tell us your story. Once again, there's a lot to be learnt when things don't go quite right. So we're really interested in what you achieved and what was not so successful. If you're not familiar with FRRR, I encourage you to go and look at our resources page. We've got lots of recordings and documents that can support you with everything from measuring success, sharing success, sponsorships, and also applications for other grants. Oh, speaking of which, there is this grant open at the moment with FRRR. The Strengthening Rural Communities grant is open throughout the year, so please use that link to go and see when those opportunities are available. We have another grant opening on the 20th of February, which is Telstra's Connected Communities grant for digital projects. And then later in the year, there is ANZ Seeds of Renewal, Nutrient Ag Solutions Community Grants, and the Community-Led Climate Solutions. So if your project isn't specifically responding to a disaster, you can always look at one of the other many offerings that FRRR has. Thank you very much for your time today. As I said, please put any comments in the chat or respond with any feedback on this presentation when we send you out the slides and the recording of the presentation.